How to develop unwavering self-confidence. If you've clicked on this video, you wish to understand how to attain impenetrable, unwavering, consistent self-confidence. In order for something to be unwavering, it is not easily influenced by experiences and external factors. So it has a solid foundation. Which brings us to the question, what is confidence? The root word of confidence is confide. The question being, what is it that you confide in? Which can be rephrased as, where does your self-worth lie? Does your self-worth come from internally or does it come from externally? For those whose self-worth comes from external things, these are things such as physical features. This could be a physique, appearance, athletic attributes, so on and so forth. Accolades, this could be achievements of all sorts. Material items or objects, that's self-explanatory. Another person, oftentimes people find confidence in how often people validate them, or so on and so forth. The problem with finding worth in these things is, if you were to experience a natural life encounter that was outside of your control, that somehow somewhat robbed you of these things, then you would begin to feel worthless. Your self-worth will decrease. And the greatest example of this is oftentimes when sports players or athletes encounter injuries that prevent them from playing their chosen sport, they often fall into a sense of deep depression because their identity and self-worth lie in their athletic abilities, and they do not simply know a life outside of that. However, what makes confidence unwavering is when experiences aren't able to easily rob you of it. So when your confidence comes from internally, it comes from the understanding that you simply are worthy of life and experiences simply because of the way God created you. And with the understanding that God doesn't make any mistakes. You see, we're born into this life and we die. We leave this life with the same things that we came in with. Nothing. So all we really have is time. This life is a transitory experience, right? And we came here to experience it. So why is it that you deem yourself unworthy from experiencing anything? Right? When that is exactly what you came here to do. Oftentimes, what can rob you of your confidence is things such as social anxiety, people pleasing, caring too much about other people think of you, self-doubt, and so on and so forth. See, the problem with the people pleaser is that you desire everybody to like you. But because what you don't understand is that is simply not the nature of life. And that not everybody you encounter is going to like you. The reason why people like and gravitate towards people actually is because they're either a reminder of a version of themselves that they like, or they simply are a reflection of the version of themselves that they want to be, right? And if somebody's indifferent about you, it's simply because you don't meet that definition. Because we're all to some extent narcissistic and we operate life from a self-serving perspective, right? So we are constantly in search for the people who remind us of the version of ourselves that we want to be, or the people who remind us of the version of ourselves that we really admire and like. And if that understanding doesn't alone free you from your people-pleasing tendency, then it is you care too much about what other people think of you because you've forgotten what you think of yourself. Oftentimes, when it comes to our emotions, we outsource the things that we've forgotten to give ourselves because this life's a mirror, not a window. Well, oftentimes what's reflected onto us is the way that we feel inside ourselves. And to that, I suggest that you take the time out to really learn and understand yourself. Because what actually creates confidence is competence. Competence is a deep, fundamental understanding and knowingness of how to do something. The thing that you're incompetent about is the thing that you've done a million times and that you're in no doubt of knowing how to do. This could be tying your shoelace or brushing your teeth or millions of other things. And oftentimes we are most confident in doing the things that we've done a million times, right? And we tend to be not so confident or avoidant and afraid of the things that we've never experienced before or don't know how to do, right? So part of having a strong self-identity that translates into confidence is knowing thyself, becoming competent in thyself. So how do you actually do this? Because we hear this all the time, right? How do you actually become competent in thyself? You do this by taking the time out and eliminating all the noise in the world and trying to understand yourself. What is it that you like? Why is it that you feel a certain way about things? What is it that drives you? What your purpose is? And so on and so forth. And This is just a recommendation. But what I've noticed is when I eliminate using social media, my mental real estate is so free that I begin to focus only on myself and my interior world, learning to get a better understanding of yourself. Because you see, what social media does is it creates this sense of mental noise that you may not know but influences the way you think and feel about yourself. And when you sort of remove it, it frees up your mental real estate to start thinking about the things that actually matter, allowing those emotions that you suppress to come up, to get a better and greater understanding of self, right? So take the time out to learn to be competent in thyself, because competence translates to confidence, right? So you can then become confident in yourself and find worth in the way God created you and reside in that. So it becomes unwavering and things outside of yourself cannot influence it, right? Now that we have this understanding, something difficult to do is to translate something we logically understand into something that we emotionally understand. Because you see, the thing is, our emotions don't operate on logic, right? And oftentimes, the way we think or the paradigms in which we think from, are paradigms, the mental framework in which you perceive and experience from, often tends to lean towards our default version of self. And I'll give you the greatest example of this. If you were to cross your arms now, and you're told to cross your arms the opposite way, you'll feel a desire to cross them back to the original way. A strong desire, in fact, right? Why? Because we often tend to gravitate towards the thing that we've done multiple times. What I tend to call our default settings, our habits. So you must remind yourself through logic that you no longer identify with the version of yourself that sees the world from a limited perspective, but sees the world from a self-serving perspective. My confidence is unwavering. Why? Because my confidence comes from internally. It comes from myself and the way God created me. Change isn't overnight, but it is through repetition of constantly catching yourself from thinking from your old patterns to reminding yourself that you no longer identify with this individual, this person, and you identify with the new way of thinking to ensure consistency. And over time, it becomes your new way of thinking, what we'd now consider your default ways of thinking, right? So, confidence comes from the word confide, and an unwavering confidence is one that comes from internally finding peace in the way God created you, with the understanding that you've come to this life to experience it, and it is a transitory passage in time. So there is no need for you to convince yourself that you're unworthy of any experiences. The things that cloud your confidence are all forms of social anxiety, caring too much about what people think of you, people pleasing, and so on and so forth. And we can eliminate these things by learning to become competent in thyself. Competence being a deep understanding, knowingness of these things, right? And the more we do that, the more we progress in that, this will translate to a stronger sense of self-confidence. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.